Hi students, today I would like to do the analysis of the discourses. Only two discourses will be dealt today. One is narrative and the other one is description. First of all, I would like to say that narrative is the mother of all discourses. The main purpose of our learning English is to present ourselves through written or oral format. Here we are dealing with written format of narrative. First of all, the teacher or the facilitator is supposed to find out the way to find out the theme, the content and the format for any discourse. So here I'll see what are the features of the narrative and also what are the types of narrative. Then afterwards I'll give the structure, then what language should be used, all these details will be given to you. Now, what is the purpose of a narrative? First of all, it is to make the reader understand something and to change their opinion. So our opinion is very important. We will give a detailed description of the matter and make others to understand it. So for that we need some characters, some theme, and also we have to give what you call a presentation with a format. Now we'll see what are the types of narrative that are there in English language. Here you can see they include fairy stories, mysteries, science fiction, romances, horror stories, adventure stories, fables, myths and legends, historical narrative, ballads, slice of life and even personal experience. All these types of narratives are having some features. First one is that of there are characters with defined personalities or identities. Then the second one is there should be dialogues included and the characters should speak and that should be written by the learner. The tense may change to the present or to the future also, because while we are making the dialogue, exactly what the character should say that you can write. So it can be present or future tense. What we are writing is in past tense, but the dialogues can be present or future. Then third one is a descriptive language to create the image in the reader's mind to enhance the story. So this is the method that we have to follow. Now we have to see the structure. In the traditional narrative, we have to focus on the text on a series of action. First we have to give orientation, that is nothing but introduction, in which the characters, settings and time of the story are established and answers the question who, when, where, etc. So you can see one example here. Mr. Wolf went out hunting in the forest one dark gloomy night. So the first question is who? Mr. Wolf. When? At night. Where? To the forest. Why also can be added. For what? For hunting. So second one is there can be a complication or a problem. The complication usually involves the main characters and mostly it will be mirroring the complications in real life. A father, mother and even the son, daughter, all these characters will be there. Then after that you have to have a resolution, a conclusion for that. There needs to be a resolution to the complication. The complication may be resolved for better or worse. It can be a happy ending or unhappy ending. Sometimes there are number of complications, and that also should be resolved. Then what is the most important thing is we have to sustain the interest of the reader or the listener. So how you should write? First of all, there should be a plot for that. What is going to happen? Somebody should think about it. Then the setting should be created. Where will the story take place? Or when will the story take place? In the example you have seen, at night in the forest, Mr. Wolf went out hunting. So, same way, characterization. And who are the main character? And what do they look like? Is it an old man, a young man, or a child? Such kind of details should be written. Then the structure. How will the story begin? What is the beginning of the story? What is the problem? How the problem is going to resolve? This idea should be there with the author or one who is writing. Now, there should be a theme or a message the writer is attempting to communicate. And what kind of language should be used? There should be what you call action verbs. Then action words means some interest in writing. For example, instead of the old woman was in his way, we can say the old woman barred his path. So some more interest will be there in the way of talking. Then write in the first person. That is, we have to use I, we instead of second person. Sometimes we can use he, she, they also. Usually it is in past tense. Then you have to use connectives. Then specific nouns. What do you mean by that? Strong nouns. So some particular meaning. For example, instead of tree, you can use the word oak. Oak is a tree, but it gives a clarity. Or a mango tree. So that is clear. Then we have to use some words like active nouns. Make nouns actually to do something. It was raining. So you can, instead of that, you can use rain splashed down. So some action is given to the rain. Rain has been made as a noun. So there was a large cabinet in the launch, could become a large cabinet seemed to fill the launch. So there is a beauty in the language that is used. Then we have to use careful use of adjectives and adverbs. So a judicious use of adjectives and adverbs to bring in alive, qualify the action and provide description and information for the reader. So you have to use the what you call the senses, how it smells like. Then you have to say what it smells like, what can be heard, what can be seen. That means the details you can give. What does it taste like? What does it feel like? All these details can be given in the use of senses. So when a narrative is given, one should understand what is the use of the senses. Then imagery can be used. Already you might have studied about simile. That is a direct comparison using the word like or as though. The sea looked as rumbled as a blue quilted dressing gown. So, or the wind wrapped me up like a cloak. So these are some of the examples for simile. Like and as or as though is used there. Next one is metaphor, an indirect or hidden comparison. She has a heart of stone. So her heart and stone is compared without using any like or as. He is a stubborn mule. Just he and mule is compared. The man barked out of his instruction. Barked out the instructions. Barked means what? How the dog will be doing. So such kind of an what you call metaphor can be used. And another one is onomatopoeia, a suggestion of sounds through words. For example, crackle, splat, whoosh, squish, boom. So the tires whir on the road. The pitter patter of a soft dry rain. So all this shows the suggestion of a sound and the meaning is clear. And now the next one is personification. So giving non-living things or inanimate living things a living characteristics. So you have studied a poem, The River, in 9th class, and such is the example, and that one is the example. The steel beam clenched its muscles. Clouds limped across the sky. So the action is given to inanimate things, and that shows that it is personified. Now we have to see the next one. Some rhetorical questions will be asked. For example, have you ever built a tree hut? The answer is not expected, but that will give an interest to the reader. So beginning of the sentences can be given. For example, beginning of the sentences, starting with the participles. Jumping with joy, I ran home to tell mom my good news. So some good news is there, so he is running away. Then starting with the adverbs, silently the cat crept towards the bird. Or starting with adjectives, brilliant sunlight shone through the window. Then sometimes nouns, thunderclaps fill the air. So some adverbial phrases also can be used. Along with the street walked the girl as if she had not care in the world. So, and next one is we can use conversations and dialogues. Then this also can be used as an opener also. Then this may be done through a series of short or one-word sentences or as one long complex sentences. Then some personal voices can be added there. So these are the examples for how to write a narrative. I'll give you one example for a narrative after I describe this description. Now we will see the second major discourse, that's a description. So what is this particular situation? What do you mean by description? So we people involved in certain situations and we have to present it to other people. Sometimes we may have to see some places, things, events, some process, etc. So these are the things that we are going to describe. Now, first of all, when we describe a place, the description of a place leads to travelogue. We have studied a travelogue last year in 9th class, Kathmandu. It is a travelogue. He is explaining a place. So description of a place gives rise to or graduates to travelogue. Then events can be described. and it can be a narrative or a news report. Already we have seen about narrative, and we'll be studying about in detail news reports also. Then third one can be describing a person. I think you can say describing a person. We are having two discourses. One is a major discourse, that is writing biographical sketches, and a minor discourse, that's a profile. Then if you describe a process, it can be a recipe. So for example, if you are having some cookery show, or a particular as science experiments, all these are called as describing a process. So the classroom process of constructing this discourse depends upon what type of discussion is targeted and stage at which the learners are undertaking the task. So as you are 9th or 10th class students, you will have questions in that standard only. You will be asked to write, imagine who you are, a character from your textbook maybe, and imagining that you are that particular character, you are supposed to explain in first person. That's what it is expected. Now first one is describing a person. What do you have to describe about a person? The physical attributes, the social status, the achievements, the contributions or personal impressions on that person. That's what is describing a person or a biographical sketch or even a profile means. And second one is describing an object. So the details like what it is, where it is found, what are the physical properties, the shape, the color, and what it is used for, all these details can be given. Then third one is describing a place, the scenic beauty of the place, the location, the images, the sensory perceptions, etc. of a place should be given. Then the events. So what is this event, where it is taking place, the person or things involved, the order of events, the scenic details, images, sensory perception, etc. can be used in that. Then a process, details such as what it is for, things involved, sequences, all these will be used there. Then the language used for dealing with these details at various states also will be different. So at one stage, first stage, the verbs such as be, have will be used. Then afterwards, classes 3, 4 and 5, learners may also use action verbs to talk about social status, achievements, contributions, etc. At stage 3, we expect the learners to use figurative expressions, that is, similes, metaphors, images, and so on. Now, we are having one example of a description of a room. You can go through it. This is an expert from A Light Man by Henry James. So, how the room is described, just I'll read some part of it. He was in waiting to receive me. We found him in his library. So the library is explained there, which by the way is simply the most delightful apartment that I ever smoked a cigar in. A room arranged for a lifetime. At one end stands a great fireplace with a florid, fantastic mantelpiece in carved white marble. An importation, of course, and on one may say an interpolation. The groundwork of the house, the fixtures being throughout the plain, solid and domestic. So, all this gives what is that room like. We will get a clear idea about what is that room. Now, if it is about a description of a person, he rose from his chair, the man of fancy, to greet me. the man of fact, as I looked at him. In the lamplight, it seemed to me for the first 5 minutes that I had seldom seen an uglier little person. It took me 5 minutes to get to the point of view. Then I began to admire. He is diminutive, or at best of my own moderate stature, and bent and contracted with his 70 years, lean and delicate. So the person is being explained there. You can see, you can read through it. Now, description of a scene. This is given or taken from the drama in 9th class, Saint Joan of Arc by Bernard Shaw. And in that, a scene is described, scene 1, a fine spring morning on the river Mersey, between Lorraine and Champagne, in the year 1429 AD, in the castle of Vankers, Captain Robert de Baudricourt, a military squire, handsome and physically energetic, but with no will of his own, is disguising that defect of in his usual fashion by storming terribly at his steward, a trodden worm, scanty of flesh, scanty of hair, who might be any age between 18 to 55. So, a clarity of the person is also given there. Now you have, as I have given you 3 examples for description, now I am giving you a writing discourse for a narrative. The question here is, you have read the play The Dear Departed. Write the essence of the play in the form of a story. Your story should include the following: adapt the story to your culture, change the names of the characters, change the description of costumes, and you have changed the things stolen by the daughters. In that way, you have to present it. I'll give you an answer also for that. You can just go through it. The name of the person is given as Somaya 65, and the name is given as Ramanapeta, and he has 2 daughters, and one is his wife is passed away, and elder daughter is Krishnaveni. Then the other daughter is Padmini, and their husband Sandeep, Somaya. All this according to our culture is given, and a description is given. This is taken from some workbook only. Anyway, just to make you aware of what is a narrative. So I hope that you have understood what is narrative and description. So narrative is a bit difficult, I told you, because of the details that you have to include. And more than that, you should have dialogue in that, and introduction, development, and also the end. All this should be there. But in description, you need to describe only what is asked. So if it is a person, you have to explain about the person. If it is a place, you have to explain that. If you have to imagine that you are so and so, and say the answer to that. So I think you understood narrative and description. If you have any doubt, get back to me. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.